Well, they brought back everybody's favorite event. Last year, it was the Xyz Cup. This year, we have the Synchro Cup. And boy, did people hate the Xyz Cup last year. Me included. And while I still have a lot of similar complaints with the Synchro Cup, you know, mainly with the fact that this is a fucking Duelist Cup style event. And that means there's a stage 2 with a 72-hour grind, and you know me, I have no self-control, so I have to grind these events. And this is a month right before the Duelist, right before we have a Duelist Cup next month. So yeah, we have 2 straight months of Duelist Cup style grinding. Hell yeah, man, that's just boy, they're totally not gonna burn out from that or anything. But yeah, but at the very least, this time the Synchro Cup is much less. It's less bad than the Xyz Cup. It's more friendly towards, you know, all players, you know, casual players, people who don't actually have a deck for this event. You know, last year it was a travesty because it was all the way, it was a Duelist level up all the way to level 20, and there was no loners. This year, at least they made it so that if you don't own a deck for this event, you're not as boned getting the gems as you were last year. Now it's only a Duelist level grind up to Duelist level 15, which I think should be less than Duelist level 20. Now I don't know how many wins it takes to level up each Duelist level, so because you know this event hasn't started yet. But I think the grind to Duelist level max this time is going to be a lot shorter than the Xyz Cup, so you know that's a good thing. With events, the main thing people are trying to get from the events are gems, and by making a Duelist Cup format, you're actively making the act of getting gems harder for the player base. So it's at least that they recognize that, you know, for the non-Duelist Cup events, the non-real Duelist Cup events, at least, you know, make the gem grind at least a bit more simple. And also they gave loners this time, so that's nice. I'll be the Xyz Cup had no loner, so if you didn't have an Xyz deck, you were kind of honestly boned. So yeah, the fact that you will always have an option of a deck to play just with these loners decks is much better this time around, and I'll definitely, you know, go over these loner decks in probably a different video. But right now, let's cover. I guess this video is to cover the best decks that I think you're going to be that are going to be for the Synchro Cup. And if you know, at the very least, if you're not going to play these decks, you know, if you don't want to play the best decks, at least this video will hopefully like give an idea of what generally going to probably be the most popular, so that if you're not playing them, at least you know what other people are playing, so you have a chance to, you know, if you know what to prepare against and so on and so forth. But first I want to cover, you know, some notable decks in this event that are either not legal or nerfed in some way, shape, or form, to where, you know, they're drastically hit, and like I wouldn't consider them among the best decks. So number one, and first deck we always have to talk about with a Synchro event is Tenpai. So Tenpai, this is what Tenpai looks like in the Synchro Cup. And whoops, it does not look like this actually. It actually looks like this. Boom, boom. Yeah, this is fucking Tenpai. Yeah, obviously there's no Link or Xyz monster, whatever. So yeah, this is Tenpai. They limited every single fire dragon, monster. So while this Tenpai, technically it's not unplayable. You can still play Tenpai. So that's still an option if you really want to. But they recognize that Tenpai would probably be a problem if it was anywhere near what it looks like in the actual standard Master Duel format. So, you know, they did hit this deck. They didn't make it unplayable. They didn't completely ban it like they did for other Synchro-based events. So you are still going to have to consider Tenpai as a real deck that you play against. At the same time, I wouldn't put this in like the best decks for this format. It's definitely still playable. It's still going to be frustrating, obviously, because it's a deck that plays, you know, 20 plus 30, probably close to 30 non-engine out, but like you can tell the consistency. Like the deck was already had consistency issues before, and obviously, I'm not even sure you can play this. Obviously, you can't really even play the Sky Strikers. Like, you can play Board Breakers, you can play Engage if you want, but like there's no Link monster. You can't Kagari add back Engage. So like I'm not even sure the Strike or Board Breaker approach is even that good this Synchro Cup Tenpai. So if you really desperately want to play Tenpai, you're probably gonna have to resort to this. But where is it? Mass Dragon. You're gonna be unironically you're going to be playing this because this searches Chandra in the damage step, and you crash it into your opponent's monster. Like that's you're gonna be this down bad if you're wanting to play Tenpai, which you still can. I'm not stopping you. It's not, you know, it's not impossible. This definitely can still work. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a few Tenpai decks in the top 100 even, but this is not what I would consider among the top decks or anything. Not, at least not within the top 5. Just to, you know, be aware that Tenpai is technically playable, but technically is doing a bit of heavy lifting there. But yeah, that's Tenpai. You know, probably everyone was probably wondering the state of that deck in this event. Also, other decks I want to mention are like some notable decks that do play synchro monsters but rely a lot on non-synchro monsters. Like they're known for being synchro decks, but the fact is that they rely a lot on Link or Fusion monsters or Xyz monsters or some other summoning mechanic in order to actually be at full power. So to play them in this event would be a bit more of a struggle. One of the most prominent examples is something like White Forest. So White Forest is a deck that people have been talking about for this event, and it's not just White Forest. There are other decks in the similar vein of White Forest, such as we're gonna remove the Cashier cards because you know, Unicorn is banned, but not just White Forest. There's cards like Tenny, Sword Soul, specifically, you know, the Tenny part. Links are banned, so like Tennys are significantly worse with without Link monsters. Also, there's like Punk. You know, Punk is a deck that has synchro monsters, but Punk also relies on fusion monsters and Link monsters. It is like a sort of a Fiendsmith type deck, and so Punk is also technically, you can play Punk cards, but I'm not even sure if you can really play the actual Punk strategy without fusions, without Rising Carp, without Link monsters, without the new rank 8 XDs, all that stuff. So yeah, these, you know, decks that synchro decks rely on other summoning mechanics. White Forest is like the most notable example because if you notice what a standard White Forest deck looks like, this is what I think a standard White Forest deck looks like. Look at the extra deck, okay? The extra deck has 4 synchro monsters. That's it, okay? The deck, 11 out of the 15 extra deck cards in a White Forest deck are not actually synchro monsters, because the synchro monsters are like a very small portion of the deck strategy, honestly. Especially a build like this where you rely on Fiendsmith cards to actually bridge into your White Forest cards, and also you also play Azamina cards, which, you know, because of LZ and with no fusions, Azamina cards are also pointless. So like a huge portion of a standard White Forest extra deck is completely irrelevant for this event. So if you can still play White Forest, probably you probably have to play, like, I don't know, Toy Box, which is kind of meh, because when you go from like Fiendsmith and Azamina to Toy Box, you go from like 1 card and 1.5 card combos to just raw 2 card combos, and also you probably have to play more White Forest cards, and a lot of White Forest cards are not that great beyond LZ and Sylvie. You know, you have Ass Stellar, you know, emphasis on the ass, because this card is like the biggest hand trap bait in the world, and this gets hand trapped. It's like the worst feeling in the world, but you're probably going to have to play more Ass Stellar if you actually want to play White Force this event with Toy Box. So you definitely can, but I wouldn't consider a White Force build of Toy Box like again in the top decks or anything. It's just it's a deck that people have been talking about, but I think it's probably a bit honestly overrated for this for this event or anything. And like finally, you know, beyond you know, Tenpai and like these other synchro based decks that rely on non-synchro monsters, there's also the non-synchro based decks, because there was an issue in the Xyz Cup last year where 2 of the most popular decks in the event were not fucking Xyz decks at all. Like two of the most popular decks in the Xyz Cup last year were fucking Labyrinth and Mikanko, because, you know, Konami did a very good job with that ban list. I'm here to report that you won't have to worry about about those cards this event. So let's look at Labyrinth. Okay, and as in, let's look at the fruiting cards. Here for the Synchro event, they banned every single Labyrinth card. You don't have to worry about Labyrinth this event like you did for the Xyz Cup. So the Lab is not going to be a thing, and also Mikanko from last format Mikanko is also, whoops, that's not how you spell it, but you know, it doesn't really change much because every single Mikanko card is also banned. So like the two of the most popular decks from the Xyz Cup are no longer legal for the Synchro Cup. So you're going to be facing more actual synchro focused strategies in this event, as opposed to like people trying to game the system by not playing on theme decks. You know, me included. I totally played my fair share of Labyrinth during stage 2 of the Xyz Cup because you know, it was legal. It should not have been legal. So it's good that Konami learned. And yeah, there's also a few like certain staples and engines that or popular engines that also got hit this event. So Millennium cards, Sanginjin and Golem are banned this event, and also for the Horus cards are also banned, Imseti and, you know, Kingstar and all that stuff. Now, I personally don't think that these needed to be banned because with Xyz and Fusions being banned already, there's already no Doom Dragon and there was no Zombie Vampire. So like those were like the two like cards that actually made the Horus engine and the Millennium engine, you know, broken in the first place. Like without those, these are just level 8 bodies. These are just engines that put level 8 bodies on the field, which personally feels like an attack on me personally, because I'm like one of the few people that played the Horus engine and the Millennium engine not as fucking Zombie Vampire or Doom Dragon Turbo, but actually as level 8 bodies to synchro with, so that I can turn my level 4 Naturia Camellia and my level 8 Horus monster into a fucking Centur-Ion Auxilia, and, you know, play my Naturia Centur-Ion Horus builds. You know, my janky ass builds got hit because of the hits to the Millennium engine and the Horus engine. So, you know, fuck me, I guess. But yeah, these are if you're wondering about the, you know, semi-popular engines like that, the two most popular, probably generic engines for this event, being the Horus and the Millennium cards, are also going to be banned. So yeah, that's just like a quick rundown of like some decks that I'm not going to go in detail with, but like are notably hit for this event. Also, you know, before anyone asks, you know, we gotta mention this, but yes, no, voice is also not legal for this event. If there was any doubt of course not, voices would not be legal for this event. What do you think voices would ever be legal for any event ever since it got released in the game? Like, hell no. So yeah, anyway, moving on from these unplayable or hit decks, let's go over some of the actual what this video is about, the actual best decks for this event. So this is probably the highest ceiling and scariest deck you will face this event. This is Junk Speeder. This deck, by the way, completely 100% unchanged from standard. Like you can literally just play your actual Junk Speeder deck that's legal in ranked right now and just port it over to the Synchro Cup, and you don't have to change a single card. So yeah, this deck essentially has no hits, and basically if this deck you know, math, 4 + 1 is 5, which is Junk Speeder resolves, you win the game. The game is immediately over once Junk Speeder resolves. No questions, no ifs, ands, or buts. They can choose at which point Junk Speeder resolves. You can literally choose whichever type of FTK, pseudo FTK end board you can go for. You know, popular one is going for Baron with Dissipator, hand looping your opponent multiple cards with Cyframe Lord Omega, maybe throwing a Tristler in there, you know, for good measures. You hand loop like 3 cards, assuming your opponent didn't even try to hand trap you. If your opponent hand trapped you, they're extra dead, because then not only do you get the Junk Speeder resolve, because most likely this deck can play through hand traps pretty decently. You can also go Thrust for a Feather Storm, and you know what's a Winged Beast? Wandering Griffin Rider, which leads me to my next point, which is the Adventure Engine is legal. This deck utilizes 2 generic engines that are still legal for this event, even though like the Millennium and Horus engines are banned. So these are like the next 2 best generic engines, and I think that I think that Synchron and Junk Speeder piles are the best decks at utilizing these engines. Basically, they're the Adventure Engine, which you know, you all know what the Adventure Engine does by now, and the Super Heavy Samurai Engine. I think this is the best deck to use the Super Heavy Samurai Engine in as well, because well, the Link is Scarecrow is banned, but this is a deck that does not care about the Super Heavy Samurai not having its Link monster or anything, because you're using Super Heavy Samurai as level 4 bodies, as level 4 monsters to combine with your level 1 tuner, namely Jet Synchron. That way you can just make speeder, and then boom. Also, a neat thing about Adventure Engine, number one is the Adventure Engine just negates, puts up a negate before you make a junk speeder. So like literally, you know, you can just protect your junk speeder with an omni negate before even going to the speeder, which is kind of busted. Number two, Faithful Adventure chain blocks your speeder as well. So you can go speeder chainlink 1, Faithful Adventure chainlink 2 to add your wriggle back. Your opponent can't even ash your junk speeder. It's quite disgusting how insulated you can actually make your junk speeder plays. And then yeah, you just do whatever combo you want. You end up using a good portion of your extra deck. You also probably draw like, you know, 4 or 5 plus cards, probably more, honestly, if you go through a full junk speeder combo. I haven't sat through a full junk speeders combo in a long time, because I know by that time I'm already cooked and I'm already long gone after junk speeder resolves. They don't even get that far, because I'm just not wasting my time watching that movie. But yeah, so this is like a pretty standard deck list. You know, so maybe some of the ratios can be fixed here or there, but in general, this has like most of the cards that are generally played in most speeder decks and most of the generic engines. So like to go over it, we have like the, you know, driver package, because basically the only thing this deck loses to is Maxi and Fugal Loss. So this deck actually plays on the draw pretty decently. I wouldn't say you want to draw yourself too often, but if your opponent draws you after you make your most important search, like, you know, after it, even a super heavy has Samurai Wakaushi, you're fine, because junk speeder does not need to add any cards to resolve. So draw will not prevent you from going to junk speeder. And if you go junk speeder, even under draw, like, yeah, you won't draw 5 cards off Hyper Librarian, but you still get to do the most of your end board still. So yeah, draw is, this deck is actually fine to draw. It's just mainly Maxi and Fulos is the issue. So like that's why you run the Gamma, just has more else than Maxi, you know, to double draw. To double Jet Synchron, the linchpin, the level 1 tuner of choice for this deck. You know, you need a level 1 tuner to go into junk speed in the first place, so Jet Synchron's the best one. And also it's the most easily accessible, because you can access Jet Synchron from the deck as like a there's like 2 separate cards in this deck that basically just e-telly Jet Synchron out. So like that's why Jet Synchron is like the best level 1 tuner of choice. Now 2 Maxi is a triple motorbike, obviously, for the Super Samurai engine, Ash, Negate Maxi. Triple Water Enchantress. Water Enchantress is the one you max out on, because it's a monster that's, when sent to the graveyard, you can banish it to add your right of Armis here. So anything that pitches a monster, basically, you pitch this with Die Bellstar, you pitch this with 1-for-1. You can just special, honestly, if you already have the event generation, you can special summon this, and just as another body, as a free level 3 body, and then, you know, so on and so forth. Like, this is drawing Water Enchantress is usually better than just drawing Right of Armis here in this deck. So yeah, then you have a Praying Mantis, which is essentially just a this card is meant to be dumped off Diabolantis. Diabolantis sends a insect monster to the graveyard, so you send Praying Mantis, which is, by the way, still has the funniest name I've ever seen on any Yu-Gi-Oh card. Literally, this is a fucking Praying Mantis that's praying, and it's called Praying Mantis with an A. Like, this is hilarious to me for some reason. But yeah, you can banish this from the graveyard, and then yeah, you can banish this from the graveyard, special summon a Baby Mantis token. So basically it gets you a free level 1 non-tuner body as well. And then you can turn Diabolantis also is you can turn Diabolantis into a tuner, and then you can go into a Croco Dragon to draw a card as well in certain lines with this deck as well. So yeah, the Praying Mantis there. Super Heavy scales as a level 4 body from the 6 Super Heavy Samurai engine, and Soul Piercer, level 4 normal summon from the Super Heavy Samurai engine. So yeah, both of these being level 4 is important. Snow is very, you know, hard drawing Snow is broken because it's a level 4, so you literally just normal summon it, and then that's like half a speeder right there. You have a Stardust Synchron, which is the other way to make speeder, which is like you can either go a level 4 non-tuner plus a level 1 tuner, or you can go a level 4 tuner plus level 1 non-tuners. So yeah, just Stardust Synchron is the other way, because we combined with like Stardust or a Stardust Illumination, summon Stardust Trail Synchro into like a Excel Synchron, or a Stardust or Stardust Ass Dragon, and then the Stardust Trail will get you a level 1 non-tuner to pair with the Stardust Synchron, so on and so forth. Like there's like infinite ways to get the Junk Speeder. Pretty much, I think every hand can get you at least a Junk Speeder. Triple Fool Laws broken in this deck. You know why? Because this is a level 4 non-tuner that you can normal summon. So literally, Fool Laws plus any access to Jet Dragon is full Junk Speeder comp. So yeah, Fool Laws is not a brick going first. It's actually half of a full combo piece. So there you go. The Wandering Griffin Rider to pair with the Mentor Engines. Triple Die Bellstar, the Black Witch, because Die Bellstar, guess what? Sets original Symbol Spoils. Original Symbol Spoils gets Jet Synchron. Jet Synchron, E-Telly number 1 for Jet Synchron from the deck. Double Nibiru, double Droll. You can maybe fit room for more Drolls and Nibirus if you want by cutting Die Bellstar too. I've seen people run 1 Die Bellstar and it's definitely fine. Triple Wakaushi, Super Heavy Samurai Monk Big Bang K. If you're scared, just run 2 Big Bang K. That way you don't. That way this isn't the Garnet. Card Destruction. You know, it's a pretty decent. Just to gas through your board, you can discard like Avenge, Water Enchantress, Jet Synchron, Snow, all of this stuff to get a new hand, and then continue gassing through your opponent's board. It's also something you can add off Thrust. 1 for 1, just more access to Jet Synchron. Brass, 60 card deck that plays Snow and plays graveyard effects like Water Enchantress and Jet Synchron. Makes sense. Triple Tactics Talent, the one up, because you do want other thrust targets. Your thrust target going first is Featherstorm, obviously, but when you're going second, you don't want to really search. You don't want to thrust for Featherstorm. You want to thrust for proactive cards. So like these are like your one of decent thrust targets. There's Illumination to search off the Stardust Synchron. Triple Synchro Overtake. You reveal Jet Warrior from your deck, from your extra deck, and then special summon Jet Synchron. So that's another E-Telly between Die Bellstar, OSS, Synchro Overtake, and Wanted, and like 1 for 1. That's like 9 ways to Jet Synchron, and then like not just 2 Jet Synchrons. 9 ways to get the Jet Synchron without a normal summon, just from the deck. So that's nice. That's really good consistency right there. 2 Rive Armors here because we can't play 61 cards. Otherwise, I might consider playing the 3rd one. But as I mentioned, Water Enchantress is a better draw than Rive Armors here, so that's why you max out on Water Enchantress and only play 2 right. Triple Chaddock's Thrust. Your opponent max sees you. You thrust for Featherstorm, end on Griffin plus Featherstorm, Omnigate plus Floodgate. Say good luck to your opponent. Better have that second max seed next turn, otherwise you're gonna die. Original Single Spoils, Synchro Rumble for the Crimson Dragon, Dracoback, Adventure Engine, Called by, cross out max seeds. Wanted for the Die Bellstar and the Heartbeat Featherstorm. The extra deck is I'm not sure if there's any flex spots in here really. I think all of these extra deck cards are pretty important. Hyper Librarian obviously for combo, Jet Synchron for the Synchro Overtake, Excel Synchron, Junk Speeder obviously, Black Rose Dragon. If you have the alt art, bonus points, gotta play the alt art. I fortunately don't have the alt art, so I may not be playing this deck specifically because I do not own the Black Rose Dragon alt art. Stardust Dragon alt art, you gotta play the Stardust Dragon alt art too, even though it's a bit ugly. I know, but yeah, Omega to hand rip. Cyber Slash Hybrid Lady. So Cyber Slash Hybrid Lady, if you don't have access to Adventure Engine, but you did thrust your opponent for Featherstorm, you can always make Featherstorm live just by hard making Cyber Slash Hybrid Lady. This is a winged beast as well. So like even if you don't have access to Adventure Engine, you can still always make Featherstorm live, which is fucking broken as hell and toxic as shit, but this ain't no for fun event. This is a serious event, the Synchro Cup with for stage 2. So yeah, Excel Synchro Stardust, Die Belantis, I explained before, the level 8 Synchro that dumps Praying Mantis to get you another level 9 Synchro and like a level 8 body. It could be a tuner or non-tuner, plus another level 1 non-tuner token. So yeah. Trishula, more hand looping, yay. Drabness Crocodile Dragon, you can just draw cards off this. Draw even more cards. If drawing 4 or 5 cards isn't enough, draw a 6 card, draw a 7 card. Baron, it's obvious Synchro deck. Dissipator to hand loop multiple cards of Omega and Crimson Dragon. So yeah, this is. I know you probably might not own this deck, but you should be aware that this is a deck that's legal and at full power, and this is something that you should be prepared for. So. So next, a pretty obvious choice for a Synchro-based event is Centur-Ion. Like normal Centur-Ion does play a few Link monsters like link ones like Artemis and Mirage and like SP and Typhon as an Xyz, but those aren't really crucial to the deck or anything. Those are just random utility cards that you make once in a while. The overall strategy of Centur-Ion, which is just making a bunch of level 12 synchros, making a Blazar or two, drawing a ton of cards, and then playing tons of hand traps, that strategy is the same in standard as you can play it in the Synchro Cup. So yeah, the one perk of Centur-Ion is that unlike pretty much almost every other synchro deck in the game, Centur-Ion does not mind getting max seed or Fua at all, especially Fua. Like Fua is not is almost completely like if you Fua Centur-Ion, it's basically an upstart goblin. It's like you can't even tell what the Fua did, because the Centur-Ion player will just end on Auxilla, Phalanx pass, make a Crimson Dragon on your turn, and it's like, what happened to, like, the Fua literally did not do a single goddamn thing. So like, yeah, if you want to play a deck that isn't weak into the most turn ending, the most meta defining hand traps in the format, Centur-Ion is for you, because Centur-Ion does not get blown out by those hand traps. And speaking of hand traps, Centur-Ion, how many hand traps is this? Let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 19. Then this is 19 hand traps. Okay, half your deck is hand traps. 19 hand traps. That's Centur-Ion, baby. Like, if there's one way to stop the speeder deck I showed you earlier, one hand trap will never stop speeder, so you gotta hope to draw 2 or 3. And Centur-Ion is probably the single deck in the entire format that has the most chance to draw the most hand traps to stop all the bullshit your synchro opponents are doing. So yeah, otherwise, like, Centur-Ion is like pretty straightforward for the most part. I'm pretty sure most people who have seen Centur-Ion played once already know what it does, but essentially, like, one card combos let you go into Premier Primus to get Autry, to draw a card off Autry. Your end board is like Blazar, Auxilla, and then you draw 2 cards, and on your opponent's turn you make a second Blazar, so you have double Blazar going back and forth. And like, double Blazar backed by hand traps, it's impossible to beat, because like, it's 2 army negates that come back every turn. So if you don't kill them on your very first turn going second, you're gonna lose to the Blazars. And you're probably not going to OTK them through the Blazars, because, like I said, 19 hand traps. Try beating double Blazar backed by 3 to 4 hand traps that, by the way, your opponent draws multiple cards as well. So yeah, I will say that the Bistio engine is one of the perks for playing Centur-Ion. Centur-Ion is maybe one of the best decks in the entire game that synergizes with the Bistio engine. And I'm gonna be frank, I don't think the Bistio engine is gonna be that great, because there's gonna be a lot of decks this format that just are not light and dark based at all. So synchro decks are like that. Synchro decks are all sorts of attributes. In fact, most of them tend not to be light or dark. So like, Bistios aren't actually that great of hand traps for the most part. They're mainly just as an advantage to play with like the Bistio Lebellion and Regain. And Bistio Lebellion being a level 8 non-tuner, and the Bistios being level 6 tuners, they're important to, for synchro materials to synchro with your Centur-Ion monsters, but they're not actual good interruptions and good hand traps. Which is why I cut them down just to like the minimal package of like 3 Bistios and 3 Lebellion. Also, the fact that there's no SP and there's nothing you can link off your Bistio monsters to also makes them slightly worse, because then they have an issue of like, you will just randomly have Lebellion chilling on the field that doesn't do anything because you can't link it off. Because normally you would link off the Lebellion into SP, banish another card, draw a card for a regain. Like, that's nice. You obviously can't do that in a synchro event. So like, the Lebellion, if you don't need it as a if you're like Premier, for example, didn't get a hand trap and you don't need to use the Lebellion as a level 8 non-tuner to synchro summon into the Centur-Ion monsters, the Lebellion just chills on the field doing looking pretty, but doing not a whole lot besides placing the regain. So it's still fine. It's still probably worth running. You can experiment with cutting Bistio cards if you want, and like by playing more non-engine, or you could even play Superheavy Samurai in this deck by like cutting the Bistio package and running the Superheavy Samurai package in its place. Although that opens up the deck to like other weaknesses that makes the deck weaker into Max E, for example. So then you would probably have to run more outs to Max E, because we're not running Callback Cross out here, because getting hit by Max E and Full Loss isn't as detrimental. But if you were to add like a Superheavy Samurai engine, for example, then you would probably want to play those outs to Max E. So like, the entire deck would change a little bit, but it's another viable option. But yeah, for this, just the straight standard build of Centur-Ion, it looks something like this. So you have 3 Valor. By the way, the hand traps are whatever you want. Like, this isn't an exact hand trap lineup. I know the Mourner is like a bit weird. Most people probably don't even have multiple Mourner. and like the ogre, it could be like any number of copies. The one draw is also weird. Like you could run whatever hand traps you want. The point is that this deck can run 19 hand traps, so literally run your whatever 19 hand trap you think are best fit. This is what I'm playing in this build, but you know, obviously it could be liable to change. Like 3 Veiler, 1 draw as the 40th card, double maxi. We're not playing Fool Loss, by the way. Fool Loss is not good in Centur-Ion, even though even though you can discard Fool Loss off stand-up Centur-Ion. That's not the main point. Like you don't want a card just because you can discard it off stand-up. Like the thing is with Fool Loss is you're drawing as many cards during your opponent's turn as you are during your turn. Like combined with Regain and Achi, you're drawing like 2+ cards on your opponent's turn, not to mention Legacia. So like because you're drawing cards on your opponent's turn, that's also why we're not playing Imperm here. You want to draw into live hand traps, okay? You don't want to draw into Fool Losses and Imperms on your opponent's turn, because like those are hand traps you can't use. You'd rather draw into like the Birus and Mourner even, because Mourner, if you draw into Mourner, you can use it on your opponent's turn, whereas Imperm you can't. So yeah, that's why we're not playing Imperm or Fool Loss, if you're wondering. Double Ghost Ogre, I think both Ghost Ogre is pretty decent. Like it hits a lot of random stuff. It hits Wakaushi, it hits the super heavy Samurai package, it hits the Adventure package, it hits random other Synchro decks, it hits the mirror match in Centur-Ion. Ogre is very good in the mirror match as well. So yeah, I think this is like a solid hand trap. Triple Ash, double Mourner, you know, just because you can, it's a usable hand trap you could draw into. Triple Primera, triple Trudea, 1 Ashi is pretty standard. But as I mentioned, the minimal Bestial package of 3, like Baldrake, Magnamut, Druisform, Baldrake, and then 3 Lubellion plus the Regained. 1 Gargoyle 2, triple Nibiru, you know, Nibiru's in the Synchro Cup. I think Nibiru is going to be a lot better. 1 Bonfire to search the Trudea, triple Stand Up, triple Emblem Oath, 1 Wake Up, and 1 Phalanx. Again, I don't like running multiple Phalanx. Like if you, at any point, if you search the Phalanx or if you dump the Phalanx off the Wake Up, that means your combo resolved, then you should probably be in a favorable position anyway. You shouldn't need the second Phalanx as follow-up in any way. You also like don't want to draw it. Like yes, you can discard it off stand-up, but like you don't want this. The main problem with Centur-Ion is that it's not as good going second. That's why he's played so many hand traps. So you don't want to draw Phalanx going second when you already struggle to break boards. So like that's why you only need the 1. It should be fine. Trust me, you'll very rarely miss the second one. And then the extra deck. So because there's no Link monsters, you have a bit of like extra utility spots. So one of the utility spots is Crimson Blader. You know, this is a single event, and when you prevent your opponent from summoning level 5 or higher monsters, that's effectively just floodgating them out of the game for a turn. So yeah, random level 8 Synchro might come up. Chaos Archfiend probably comes up a bit more, because Chaos Archfiend, basically it's like Borderland Dragon. It just attacks every single one of your opponent's monsters, and if a card gets banished, it goes to 4,500, so you can also OTK pretty easily if your opponent has a bunch of attack position monsters. And any monster this card battles, it also gets banished. So like, obviously it's ideal if you were able to banish a card before you summon Chaos Archfiend. That way it starts at 4,500. But even if you don't banish a single card before you summon Chaos Archfiend, it will still probably go up to 4,500, because any monster you attack over with Chaos Archfiend will get banished, and then when the monster gets banished, the Chaos Archfiend will gain the 2k attack then anyway. So like this will almost always be at 4,500. So yeah, this is a pretty good object growing second. In a Mr. Packbit, it's just like the 15th extra card. This probably is not that crucial, to be honest, but you know, it lets you reset your Centur-Ion monsters and your as continuous traps, and Centur-Ion monsters as continuous traps can summon themselves back. So like there's utility there. And also like, you know, you go into this and then you can, because it's a level 8, you can then synchro it off into like Legacia on your opponent's turn. So like if you just go, you can like use double Packbit effect. You can go summon Packbit, use Packbit's effect on your opponent's turn, then you summon back your like a Primera or an Autry. You synchro with the Packbit, and then when the Packbit goes to the graveyard, you get the triggered Packbit's effect again. So you can like double place with Packbit. So that's like pretty cool. But like if you're able to do that, you're probably already way winning, and you're just beating your opponent at that point. But yeah, 1 Primera Primus, you only need 1. If you have 2, you can play the second one over like a Crimson Blader. It's fine. But like I've never, in all my games playing Centur-Ion, I've never felt like I needed the second Primera Primus, except for the times it gets Cashier Unicorn, which is not going to happen in this format because Cashier Unicorn is banned. So like you don't have to worry about that. Baron, Changing, Dissipator, Chaos Angel, just generic level 10s. Double Blazar, a Red Supernova Dragon. Everyone should have the Royal Red Supernova Dragon, so there. Crimson Dragon, double Legacia and one Auxilia. The second Legacia is also not necessary, but you know, there are times where you do want to make double Legacia, like the second one can come up. You almost never make the second Auxilia because you only have one good search target, which is like either Wake Up or Phalanx. And if you search Wake Up, then you already used the Phalanx, so then you don't have to have a second search target for Auxilia. So you never really need the second one. You just summon Auxilia once and it's fine. Legacia, it's because you can draw multiple cards. Like you can make one on your turn and then make one on your opponent's turn, and then you like draw multiple cards. So like yeah, the second Legacia definitely comes up more than the second Auxilia. But yeah, this is Centur-Ion. So nobody's surprised Centur-Ion is a viable deck for the Synchro Cup. So next is a deck full of cool floodgates, Ice Barrier, and reason I want to showcase Ice Barrier because Ice Barrier is also relatively unhit in the Synchro Cup compared to what you normally play in like ranked, because generally pure Ice Barrier builds only play like maybe 2 to 3 Link or Xyz monsters, and one of them is Typhon, so like, you know, obviously Typhon's not necessary. You play Koro Anemone and you play Almirage. Because Koro Anemone is like, you know, this is a water deck, so you know you can use 2 waters to go into Koro Anemone, but to play through hand traps, like Koro Anemone is not needed for any of your combos actually, so it's like more of a follow-up thing, so that's not the biggest deal. And Almirage is kind of a big deal because without Almirage, your Mirror Mage is not a 1-card combo. So like if you draw Mirror Mage by itself and you don't have Almirage, you can't actually do anything. So that's also like, because there's no Almirage, is also why I cut Mirror Mage down to 2 instead of 3 copies, in case any Ice Barrier enthusiasts are wondering why it's such at a low number. There's no Almirage, that's why, so it's not a 1-card starter. So I figure, you know, it was probably better prioritizing monsters that were actually 1-card starters or actual starters instead of, you know, just Mirror Mage, which is a very good extender, very good card that you want to draw with every other. You want to draw Mirror Mage with every other Ice Barrier monster for combo wise, especially with Revealer. This card Mirror Mage is like the best combo in the deck, but obviously you don't want to, if you draw Mirror Mage with nothing else, it doesn't do jack shit, so like you don't want to see it too often. But yeah, this deck, it's not so. This deck is going to catch people off guard, maybe just because people are going to be unfamiliar with Ice Barrier. Because let's be honest here, when was the last time you played against Ice Barrier outside of the fucking water wind event or whatever the hell that was? Like outside of event, when have you actually played against Ice Barrier on ladder? Like when was the last time? I honestly can maybe think of like me playing against Ice Barrier one time in all of 2025, well, like on a ranked ladder. So this might catch people off guard. And Lancia is like just a ridiculous card. This is like the whole reason this deck is viable. That this is one of the most ridiculous cards in the entire game. But annoyingly enough, Lancia, Ancestral Dragon of the Ice Mountain, the boss monster for the Ice Barriers, not technically an Ice Barrier monster because it doesn't have Ice Barrier in its name. So you know that's relevant for certain cards that require you to control Ice Barrier monsters. Keep in mind, Lancia is not technically an Ice Barrier monster. Don't know why they felt. Did they even, was that like did they overlook something? With like, did they just forgo or something? I don't know why they had to treat Lancia as not an Ice Barrier monster. Like, if this was an Ice Barrier monster, this deck wouldn't be broken anyways. Like, I don't know why they they just decided to do that, but sure, whatever. But yeah, Lancia, insane, summons out Raiho. There's no Synchro deck in the entire game that can play under a Raiho. Like, pretty much, if you get Lancia out with a Raiho out, and your opponent doesn't have an out to either Raiho or Lancia, they're probably gonna just lose the game. Like, they're not gonna be able to play into this. Discarding 1 card every time just to activate a monster effect, it's just no bueno. Like, imagine this Junk Speeder deck, you know, discarding multiple cards to deal with a Raiho. Like, they already discard cards of like Die Bellstar and stuff like that. Like, that's not good for them. But yeah, this deck, it's also decent into Max Z. Like, it's not the best. It's not as good as Centur-Ion to Max Z or Fulos, but you know, like this deck's game plan going to Max Z is just to turbo out the Lancia in like 2 to 3 summons maybe, which is probably still good enough. Like you'll at least for the most part not die, provided your opponent doesn't draw into an imperm to actually deal with the Lancia. You establish Lancia under Max Z. Even if your opponent gets like 2 to 3 draws, they're still going to have a hard time dealing with the Lancia, because Lancia something Raiho out is just going to make the hella annoying for them to OTK you. Especially since if they ever out the Lancia, Lancia is going to summon a Trishla out, and Trishla is going to banish your entire field. So yeah, they can't out the Lancia. They have to be very careful with outing the Lancia, and they also have to be very, very careful playing to the Raiho, even if they have extra cards in hand. And this is also that plays like 16 hand traps, 16 non-engine as well. So you do have some of the hand traps of your own to, you know, fight back to your opponent. Also, this is a Dominus Impulse deck, so that's another benefit. Dominus Impulse, I think, is always a good card, and the decks that can run Dominus Impulse, you know, that is definitely a benefit. So yeah, this being a water-based deck, definitely can run Dominus Impulse, unlike the previous 2 decks I showed. So yeah, there's another perk there. And yeah, also like Lancia is twice a turn, by the way. It's not a once per turn. So even if your opponent has an impulse or a Ash Blossom of their own to stop Lancia's effect, it's still not going to work probably because Ash and impulse are hard once per turn, whereas Lancia is twice per turn. So they can negate the first time you want to special summon out Raiho, but the second time they're probably not going to be able to negate it. So you can just summon out Raiho on their second special summon instead of their first summon. If you ever get both special summons off Lancia out on your opponent's turn, like, the game is probably over, because at that point you're getting out Raiho plus Georgius. So not only does your opponent have to discard a card every time they want to use a monster effect on the field, they also can't use monster effects in the grave. They're also Dwellered. So yeah, between that and then just having a big body of Lancia, like, that's going to be enough. And then keep in mind, like, most of the time, if your end board is not just going to be Lancia as well, your end board is also going to have any combination of Fragite or Baron, very rarely, but also Ran Izurine. So Izurine plus Lancia is like insanely difficult to break through. Like, you're not only are you flicking out your opponent, but you're also protecting your own monsters while banishing your opponent's cards. So like, that's insane. Also, Adamant. Sorry, I already mentioned that. Rocco Dragon Radness, Rockosaur. Anytime you make this, you're drawing at minimum 3 to 4 cards. Like, you're drawing an extra 3 to 4 cards on your end board as well, and in a deck that plays 16 hand traps. So you're going to draw into non-engine, you're going to have like floodgates out in the field, your opponent's going to have a hell of a time dealing with your board. So yeah. And also, people might be looking at this deck and probably are wondering why I'm not playing. Oh well, what the hell did I expect typing in ice? Yeah, so ice barrier. Probably wondering why I'm not playing Spellbreaker plus Winds of over the Ice Barrier, mainly because these cards are not good going second. Ice Barrier, it's like Centur-Ion, it's another deck that can struggle going second if you don't draw enough hand traps. And I'm just gonna put it out there, like, if I draw Spellbreaker, if I have Winds over the Ice Barrier or Spellbreaker in my hand and my opponent goes Junk Speeder, I'm gonna probably commit. Like, I'm probably gonna fucking like leave the game and probably close Master Duel after that, because that's not a good feeling. Your board is good enough to where you don't need a spell floodgate most of the time. Like, what board breaking deck are you afraid of? Like Striker Tenpai in Synchro Cup? Like, we already went over the Tenpai hits in this event, but yeah, generally, and like, if you're able to get the Spellbreaker, you're probably also able to just end on a board that has Lancia and Izurine, or Lancia plus Croco Dragon that drew you 3 to 4 cards after you finish out your deck. Like, that's enough to win against almost every single deck already. Like, single decks are already bad going second as is. Like, you don't need the full Uber end board in Ice Barrier. Like, if you're playing against Centur-Ion, you definitely don't need Spellbreaker to beat Centur-Ion when you go first. Like, you just literally you have a Lancia up and Centur-Ion already loses to that itself. So like, yeah, to go over the deck list. Also, like, I guess I should mention, like, Ice Stall. I don't think Ice Stall is that good. Holy shit, where the fuck is Ice? People are probably wondering, like, why we're not playing Ice Stall too, because they shot us short with NBT that said that, you know, Ice Stall was good in Ice Barrier. I don't think Ice Stall is actually that good in Ice Barrier. This is like in my opinion, this is like a worse version of Swap Frog most of the time, because Ice Stall, it searches Revealer, but Ice Stall only works if you can discard another water monster. So like, the thing with Swap Frog is Swap Frog works if you have a water monster or not. If you have another water monster, you can discard it for Swap Frog, send Mirror Mage, add Revealer, and then, you know, you can normal summon Revealer, then you can do your combo. But if you don't have another water monster, Swap Frog is still a combo by itself. You can still normal summon Swap Frog, still gets you to a Dry Eye plus 1 draw. If you have Ice Stall plus no other water monsters, what you're doing is you're going to normal summon Ice Stall, you're going to add Revealer, then you're going to pass because you already used your normal summon and you can't get Revealer out. And the only thing Ice Stall can search is Revealer or Speaker. And Speaker is even more useless than Revealer if you already used your normal summon and you don't have an Ice Barrier monster on the field. So like, there's that. And also, compared with Xyz, Xyz is a card that also needs a water monster, but unlike Ice Doll or unlike Xyz, Ice Doll is not good for extending. For example, if you already have access to Revealer, then the Ice Doll is not very useful at all, because the main search target for Ice Doll is to summon is Revealer in the first place. But if you already have Revealer and your Revealer gets hand trapped, like the Ice Doll is not going to do anything to help you extend past that. Okay, at least if you have Revealer plus Xyz and your Revealer gets stopped, you can still end on Lancia. And Lancia, as we established, is like a win con in and of itself. But like if you have Revealer plus Ice Doll and your Revealer gets negated, the Ice Doll is not doing jack shit for you there. We don't have Coral Enemy, like we don't even have Coral Enemy to be able to do a subwave. So like this is extra useless in this event. So I'm not a big fan of this card. Obviously, you wouldn't even play Ice Doll Mirror. This is like another brick. You don't want to introduce more bricks into this deck that already runs the fucking Raiho. Like that's the reason why I don't run Winds and Spell Breakers, just to cut bricks in the deck. So yeah. Also, when you draw cards off Croco, Ramus Dragon, Crocosaur, drawing to Ran Xyz is good, because Ran Xyz you draw into that, you can just use in Ran, make an Xyz on top of your end board, so that's nice. If you draw into Ice Doll off of a Crocosaur, again, the Ice Doll doesn't do anything because you probably already resolved Revealer, so like what are you really doing with the Ice Doll? But yeah, this card is not flexible enough in my opinion. It's too rigid. It doesn't have enough utility compared to other cards in this deck like Swap Frog and Ran Xyz, for example. So yeah, that's that for all my Ice Barrier enjoyers. That's the Ice Barrier in-depth discussion. So like onto the deck itself, a Veiler is like a cross-out target because we're playing triple Dominus Impulse. So like the hand trap room is a little sus because we have 3 hand traps that are like taking up space that other hand traps normally would in other decks. Double Hexa, because Hexa is a 1-card combo in this deck because Mirror Mage is not. So like, I figured I needed more starters in the Synchro Cup. 3 Swap Rock, double Baxi, double Mirror Mage, again because Mirror Mage is not a 1-card combo, so like I don't want to draw Mirror Mage and nothing else. I only want Mirror Mage when I already have other Ice Barrier monsters, so that's why we play 2. And with 2 it's never follow up, 1 on your turn, 1 on the next turn. So yeah, Ghost Ogre, just like another cross-out target, and as I mentioned, Ghost Ogre I think is pretty decent. Triple Ash, triple Revealer, 1 Speaker, Fool Loss as another cross-out target, even though I'm not even sure you really need the cross-out Fool Loss. Like Fool Loss isn't that bad. Like Fool Loss, if you get Fool Loss, you give your opponent 2 draws to end on Lancia. Like that's not even bad. But I guess, you know, it's better to have Fool not resolve than, you know, to have it resolve, I suppose. Raiho, double Georges or double Gorgeous, however you want to pronounce it. Yeah, it's an extender that's, you know, a floodgate as well. Triple Ran Xyz to make the Gimri Xyz or Lancia with. Nibiru as a cross-out target. Although keep in mind that most of the time, most of your combos you're making Lancia on the 5th summon. So if your opponent wants to Nibiru you, you're gonna Nibiru you or your Lancia, and then your Lancia is gonna summon Trishla, and then the Trishla is gonna banish Nibiru and another card in your hand. So if they want to Nibiru you, they're basically ripping 2 cards from their own hand. So you know that's in my opinion that's already a fair trade-off. So yeah, Foolish Burial is a 1-card star in this build because you can Foolish Burial, dump Mirror Mage, add Revealer. So yeah, unlike Mirror Mage, Foolish is a 1-card starter. Triple Medallion, the Ice Barrier. You know, if I had 3 alt-art medallions, I would be playing them, but I only had 2, so I got this one ugly medallion without the waifus on it, and then 1 Freezing Chains for the Swap Frog combo, like, and just to revive an Ice Barrier monster. Because we're not playing Wind, so this is the only spell Ice Barrier spell and trap that you generally search. Double Call by Crossout, triple Imperm, triple Dominus Impulse. The extra deck, you have a few flex spots. So like you have a Rhinonak Dragon with Ice Barrier, just like as literally just a second level 6 synchro after you make Coral Dragon turn 1, and it is an Ice Barrier monster, so there's that. Gungnir is needed for the 1-card Hexa combo for the 1-card Hexa combo to make it Lancia. You just need a level 7 water non-tuner. So, you know, Gungnir, I have the, if you don't have Gungnir, you can just play like, what's that called? Where the fuck is it? Synchro Water 7. If you don't want to play Gungnir because you don't have it, just play fucking Glacial Beast, Iceborg, Nardwall. Like that's the only purpose, to be a level 7 non-synchro. a level 7 non-tuner synchro. That's it. Prima Donna. So basically, this card, when you synchro summon it off, the monster you use to synchro summon cannot be targeted with monster effects. So usually you use this to make a dry guy, so your dry guy can be like targeted just as an extra layer of protection. But also going second, Prima Donna can be used as an extender because say your opponent has any banish card, which you know, you can banish your opponent's cards. Like if you're going second and you can establish chain, you can banish your opponent's cards, and then you can make a Prima Donna on it. And then Prima Donna can target one of your opponent's banish cards. You know, put it back in their hand. Doesn't matter. You just summon another level 4. You summon a level 4 lower water monster from your deck as an extender, and then you can actually help go for a game that way, going second. So like that's cool. Keep in mind you can use Deep Sea Prima Donna as a extender going second as well. It's not just a card that's literally just to make your Adamancer Dragon, Risen Dragon untargetable or anything. White Aura Whale, because you know we all know that whites have the most aura in Yu-Gi-Oh. One Trishla, one Croco Dragon. This is honestly like the Croco Dragon is honestly the single that you go into most often besides Lancia, just because drawing 3 to 4 cards. You're making Croco Dragon, by the way, usually with Coral Dragon plus 3 tokens. So you do the math. Coral Dragon draws 1, Croco draws 3. That's draw 4. That's busted. That's basically Malice. Like that's pretty broken, you know. Maybe Dragon Bag, another level 9 synchros. That's water that you can negate multiple cards. Like if you have like multiple mirror mages and like, holy shit, I think I yapped for a bit too much there. This video is already hella long. Okay, so the next deck is Crystrons, or aka Smigers in Paris. And I know this is a loner deck, so if you don't own an actual Crystron deck, you know, just, you know, don't bother crafting it first for this event. If you really want to play Crystron, you know, go play the loner deck. I'll go over the loner deck probably in a future video. But for the actual dedicated Crystron players who already own Crystron and want to, you know, optimize it for this event, this is one of the ways to do it. You know, if you already have the 3 inclusion and the 2 to 3 Tristaros, then the only extra UR you would need to complete this deck really is Tidal as another consistency. So unlike the previous 3 decks that I've shown in this event, Crystron is significantly hit compared to its normal, how it normally is in its normal ranked and the normal format. That being said, Crystron was also like, you know, aside from Lancia, Crystron was also like a very fucking good deck in standard. So like even though it's nerfed a little bit, you can still do stuff with this deck, and it's still very powerful for this event. It's just you're missing some of the key power plays. Obviously, aside from just Cyber Dragon Infinity, which is an, you know, obviously there's no Cyber Dragon Infinity because that's an Xyz. There's no SP or there's no Clockwork Knight, so you can't like link off your Smiger into a link one. So like that line of play is gone. You have to use Smiger's actual on-field effect now instead of just linking it off into Clockwork Knight. And also, there's no Millennium cards, there's no Horus cards. So those were probably the 2 main secondary engines that you would combine with Crystron. But because of that, because you know those cards are banned, we have to look elsewhere. So in the elsewhere we're looking for is Scrap Recycler and Tidal. Essentially, you just want ways to dump Crystron names into the graveyard. And Tidal plus Scrap Recycler are the easiest, simplest ways to dump Crystron names. So the deck still maintains consistency even without the Millennium engine into Zombie Vampire or the Horus engine into Zombie Vampire. You can still, instead of just trying to mill your cards and get extra stars that way, you just get them directly into the grave with Tidal and Scrap Recycler. And the deck is still consistent. The deck still puts up a pretty decent end board for the most part. You know that you have like 1 to 2 F8 Dawn Dragsters, and you know you have the Crystron Trap card. You have probably an access to Crystron Corian Gandrax, multiple banish with the Citri, and like a Satellite Warrior on your opponent's turn, and some hands can even establish Baron. Like that's still very strong, considering this deck also plays 1, 2, 3, 4, like 13 plus hand traps still itself as well. But yeah, to go over the deck list. Okay, so 13 hand traps. Yeah, I won't go over the hand traps. Just decide which hand traps you think serve you best. So like I'm running triple Nib, triple Ash, obviously triple Imperm, Maxi, Valor, Ghost Ogre. That's fine. If you want to play other hand traps, you know, feel free, be my guest. The hand traps are the most customizable part about this deck. But yeah, for the actual engine cards of this deck, so 1 Citri, 3 Tristaros. You can honestly get away with 2 as well. Like Tristaros, it's not a starter. It's just like a very good card to combine with other strong cards. If you have full combo outside of Tristaros, it's broken. But you probably don't need 3. But at the same time, because the other engines are hit in this deck, you do have room to play 3 if you want. If not, you can cut 1 Tristaros for like another hand trap, and that's still fine as well. Triple the Trap Scrap Recycler and Triple Tidal. Basically, these are like your starters now. Scrap Recycler is like a 1-card starter. Scrap Recycler can dump any machine, so you can like Scrap Recycler, dump Sofador or Sol Fefner if you have another Crystron card. But you can also, if you have nothing else, you can just Scrap Recycler, dump Smyger, banish, add inclusion, activate inclusion, and then you do the full Crystron combo from there. That's still fine too. So like Scrap Recycler is a 1-card combo, 1-card starter in this deck now, and Tidal is like the similar way. Tidal can with any water monster, so Tidal plus any Crystron monster or Tidal plus itself. So Tidal, that's also why adding another Tristaros isn't bad, because Tristaros, at worst case scenario, Tristaros is just another card you can pitch off a Tidal if you already have a normal summon committed for the turn. Then you can again dump like Smyger or Solfepner or Sulfador or whichever you need depending on your hand. So like with these 2 additions, like these 2 3-ofs, you maintain a lot of consistency with the deck. So you still have Scrap Recycler, Tidal, Smyger, and then like Solfepner, Sulfador as like starter/extenders. Inclusion is also still a 1-card starter, and then Foolish Burial obviously can dump anything, including the Smygers, to also act as a 1-card starter. So this deck still has tons of consistency, still has tons of 1-card starters, despite not having access to Xyz and Synchro and like monsters. Like not having Xyz monsters is basically just a hit to the ceiling of this deck, like removing an Omnigate with the Cyber Dragon Immunity, and not having the Millennium Engine, obviously that's also a hit to the ceiling, but you still maintain consistency. You can still do your play for the most part. That being said, this deck sometimes this deck, if you only do the 1-card combo and you can't like end on like a Baron or anything, you are a bit more susceptible to Nibiru. Ideally, you have a Tristaros in the field, so that even if you do get Nibiru, you can still like Tristaros, get another name out, and then like make a Samurai Destroyer and then summon back the Samurai Destroyer summons back, so you can at least do some stuff under Nibiru. Hopefully, if you open Tristaros, but Nibiru is more effective obviously against you now than like before, when you could literally just make a Cyber Dragon Infinity on every single one of your end boards and force it there. But yeah, this deck it plays non-engine on its own, so even if you don't end on your full end board, you still end on like a half end board, and you still have like maybe like a trap card, even like just cluster plus a bunch of non-engine, it can still be enough to win you the game, because as long as you don't die, Crystron, you have infinite follow-up on the next turn, and hopefully your own Nibirus and your own hand traps can also keep you alive on top of what minimal end board you have left. But yeah, this is Crystron. Everyone that owns Crystron probably already seen a build like this for the event, so like you should be generally aware of like how this deck plays already. But yeah, this deck is still going to be good, and honestly, this might even be the most popular deck that you play against, simply because it is a loner. So even if you're not playing this yourself, get familiar with this, because you're going to be playing against Crystron a lot, most likely. And speaking of the extra decks, so we have Excel Synchron, Chambara, just to push for damage for OTK. It's a machine synchro, and like you're locked into machines, so there's that. High Speedroid Hagoicha. So this card is hilarious. You can quick effect, tribute this card, increase the levels of all monsters currently on the field by 1. So yeah, you're playing a synchro event, and you're playing a synchro deck, and then you go Hagoita, and Hagoita increases the levels of all of your monsters by 1. So how the fuck is the synchro map going to work there? Like that actually screws over a ton of synchro decks this event. So this card is actually pretty decent. And the fact that it's a machine tuner, you can easily make it a level 5 synchro. Like that's pretty neat. You can also make Amatrex as a level 5 synchro as well. You have Coral Dragons a level 6, Samurai Destroyer, anti-nib, and as a level 7 to make with the Tristaros. Double Dawn Dragster, because without Cyber Dragon Infinity, you need other endboard pieces, so you can make double Dawn Dragster. A double Dawn Dragster is not a hard once per turn, it's just a once per turn, for soft once per turn per copy. So you have double Dawn Dragster out, you can still negate 2 spell and traps. Double Crystron Ellis Skeletus, Corian Gandrix, banish your opponent's entire field. And Navy Dragon Mech, Satellite Warrior, pop your opponent's entire field with the Excel Synchron. That's another way. Baron de Fleur and a Legacia for when you have a bunch of high levels. But yeah, no, Crystron definitely gonna be a good deck, and also gonna be a popular deck. So yeah, those are what I think are gonna be some of the best and most common decks this event, as well as some other decks that I think are not as good that I covered in the beginning. But if you don't own any of those decks, if you don't open a Synchro deck, again, it is good to familiarize yourself with those decks, just, because you're probably going to play against them a lot, so you should know, at least have a game plan on how to deal with them. But if you don't own a Synchro deck, it's not hopeless. Konami did a better job this time. It's not like the Xyz Cup last year with no loners, level 20 D level max, and then just that was off. That was one of probably the hardest events for casual players and for people who didn't own a deck as that was on theme for the event to actually play in. This Synchro event, it's a lot more leeway. There's going to be a lot more leeway for budget options you can play for this event, which I will cover in the next video. But yeah, thank you for watching this whole thing. Jesus Christ, I caught myself yapping way too late.